Devastating news, lads. I'm still sick. Definitely just a cold, but it does have me in its grasp. I don't think I'll be able to stream for long today, folks. I'm trying my best, Nobody wants to stream when they're sick. It's not just a matter of discomfort. It's you don't want to be sniffly and snotty. COVID? No, it's cold symptoms, not flu. So I should be fine in a couple of days, as long as I don't exacerbate it. Yeah, you don't want to wear out your voice. Have you tried horseradish for the cold? My beautiful partner made me some lovely honey and lemon water. The water's hot. Still too hot. To show this piece of modern Iranian architecture, and I think it's so beautiful. Yeah, I saw this as well. I'm also on Twitter. Really, though. Sheesh. Does look a bit like Legos. Love that. You know what I like about bricks? A lot like good clothing with natural fibers. It ages in well, you know? Basically anything made with plastic, vinyl siding, whatever else, even stuff made out of concrete, it doesn't take very long before it starts to look worn. And unless the concrete structure is built in a specific way, oftentimes older concrete stuff looks kind of dilapidated, real urban decay. Bricks age really well. There's just a texture to them, they just age really well. They can get dirty, mossy, and it's like, whatever. They still look really good. Also, they're pretty modular. I mean, they're literally bricks, If there's damage to an area, unless it's structural, oftentimes you can, like, if there's damage to a concrete facade, what are you going to do? Pour more concrete in there? It'll never look the same. With bricks, though, you can do repairs. They are Minecraft blocks. It's true. It's very true. Also for streets, bricks are great. Yeah, pavers. Big fan of those over in the Netherlands, aren't they? Not great for holding trucks, but trucks shouldn't really be on residential roads anyway. Doing repairs to brickwork and making it look original is incredibly difficult. No. I think it's cool when a building has bricks of a different color. It's like when limestone additions are made, and they're from a different quarry, so the color's different. But it looks bad when someone does a concrete patch job, There's no way to add in more concrete or, like, do a concrete fill-in without having this weird, like, I'm not saying it can't look good. I'm just saying you're fighting uphill, Yeah, it gives you a nice patina. Jesus Christ. I am not done. Kamala Harris tells BBC she may run for president again. I love to abandon my country by disappearing for months and months after my humiliating loss to a retarded fascist, only to dabble in a self-promotional book tour where I'm 90% of the time getting harassed by Palestine protesters, and then announce my potential comeback to foreign press.
In terms then of what is next for you, you write very powerfully about the differences that many women have made to your life, whether that was your meeting with Angela Merkel or the experience of growing up with your extraordinary mother or the stories of your baby nieces, Amara and Leela. When are they going to see a woman in charge in the White House?
In their lifetime, for sure.
Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God. Guys, politics isn't about being public servant. Politics is about your grandiosity. It's about your self-achievement. It's about your story.
Could it be you?
Possibly.
Have you made a decision yet?
No, I have not.
But you say in your book, I'm not done.
That is correct. I am not done. I have lived my entire career a life of service.
Again, this is a Democrat mental illness. Even this I am not done. Everyone, they're obsessed with envisioning their political careers as just that, their careers. You know, it used to be considered good manners, like good decorum, to at least pretend that you believe in public service as a concept. It's not about your career. It's about what you can give to the country, you know? I'm not saying that people have always followed that principle. I'm saying that it was considered polite to pretend, you know? Even Trump doesn't talk this way. Trump, like, yeah, he talks about himself all the time. But for the most part, he frames his accomplishments, his candidacy, and his presidency in terms of what he's done for America. You know what I mean? You don't have reporters asking him, well, how does it feel to have the be the very first billionaire New York president or whatever, you know? Like, it's a completely different tone.
And it's in my bones. And there are many ways to serve. I've not decided yet what I will do in the future beyond what I am doing right now.
But you've been very clear that it's a possibility you might run again to become president. And in my experience interviewing politicians, when someone says, I'm not done, it means they are thinking seriously about running. But when you look at the bookies' odds, they put you as an outsider, even behind Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, is that underestimating you?
Shade.
I think there are all kinds of polls that will tell you a variety of things. I've never listened to polls.
What gripping charisma. Wow, really? Maybe you should have. Like, for example, 1 year ago. And this is why Mamdani can go on a podcast and look normal. This interviewer just pitched, hey, people think you're less likely to win than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. How does that make you feel? Kamala Harris didn't engage with it at all. Because she's a fucking robot. Because she's a lizard person. Trump could have engaged with that. Trump would have been like, Dwayne's a great guy. He's got big muscles, bigger than me, they say. But I think these people, they have no idea. They have no idea what they're talking about. He could at least engage with it, you know, but she can't. She has no, like, bleep bloop does not compute. It's nothing, just nothing going on up here. It is an insult to me and to all of us that she is even allowed to act as a rep for the Democratic Party.
If I listened to polls, I would have not run for my first office or my...
She's Hillary but black. I cannot tell you enough how much more intelligent Hillary Clinton is than Kamala Harris by like a massive gulf. It's like the Pelosi-Jeffries problem, you know?
second office. And I certainly wouldn't be sitting here in this interview.
Like, does no one else see how insane it is that she can't even engage with a pitch like that? I don't listen to polls. Freak smile. Crazy freak smile. She's not a person. She's not human. How did the Democrats create a whole class of people with no personality? You know how, like, in America, middle managers aren't human beings because they're subjected to a bunch of corporate modules that tell them that they're going to be fired unless they adopt the corporate line and speak exactly like the drones that they have to learn from. You know, it's like the consultants that you listen to, right? They get, like, a juiced up version of that. She's a sociopath? No, because sociopathy is a personal character trait. This is endemic to the party. They're all like this. Like, Schumer is exactly the same. Jeffries is exactly the same. They're all the same guy. Yeah, but Republicans aren't like that. They just have an evil personality. Yeah, well, Republicans aren't like that because their political doctrine allows them to cut loose and be a little bit more free, you know? Um, but like the Republicans are in line ideologically, you know? They serve corporate interests and they're openly anti-democratic and evil. So they get to play with it. Democrats are nominally pro-democratic but still serve corporate interests. So there's a disconnect that prevents them from being authentic, you know? Mm. I hate this paradigm we're in. Yeah, I just really hope that moderate liberals who correctly understand Kamala would have been better than Trump also understand the fact that Kamala was the lead and the fact that Biden was allowed to run again and that they didn't have a primary because of it are both the reason we have Trump now. You know? Lefties have been warning about this for ages. It's not new, you know? The Democrats don't need to shift left just because it's morally right. They need to shift left because the alternative is oblivion and the end of the country. Like we've been saying this for years and they just don't believe. They don't get it, man. Like where are you at if you're some like globehead neoliberal blue checkmark, you know, Twitter user, some 22-year-old neolib, and you don't understand that like we are in the position we're in because of a historic degree of incompetence in the Democratic Party, which is to a large extent the product of biases that are created by the party's unwillingness to shift to the left. This article is such a fucking puff piece. I'm skimming over it. They're not doing the normal interview thing where you just like have a transcript of the conversation. The interviewer, or at least the writer, is, you know, puffing it up. Uh, I'm not in any position to be talking. Hold on. Bleh. What happened? I'm sick. Did you see the newest Honkai Star Rail drama? No. No, I did not. What's Honkai Star Rail? Isn't it like Genshin Impact but worse or something? Didn't everyone switch over to Zenless Zone Zero? Wasn't that the one that's the most like shamelessly um weeb? All three are made by the same studio? Damn. Did you see the Hades 2 drama where Chuds were claiming Aphrodite looked too much like a man? Buddy, that's from like 2 years ago. House Republicans want to strip Mamdani of citizenship? No, they can't do this. This is fake. Two House Republicans pushed the Justice Department to probe his path to citizenship and possibly boot him from the U.S. Randy Fine, of course. Hitler but fat. Randy Fine is so fucking gross, man. That was his goddamn Wikipedia page. Randall Adam Fine is an American politician and former gambling industry executive serving from Florida. Incredible. All you need to know. Anyway, yeah, it's a Vice signal. Dude, I'm so congested. What the fuck? Speaking of that bigotry,
Voice.
Zoran Mamdani put out a video where he reiterated some of the points in the speech we saw yesterday.
6 years ago, shortly after I had announced I was running for assembly, a well-meaning Muslim uncle pulled me aside. He smiled softly and looked at me with care. In a quiet voice, he told me I did not have to tell people I was Muslim. His eyes kind, his beard proud, and his face heavy with the implication of the unsaid. I had not learned the lesson that he had been taught, time and again. It is the lesson that safety could only be found in the shadows of our city, that it is in those shadows alone where Muslims could embrace the fullness of our own identities, and that if we are to emerge from them, then it is in those shadows where we must leave our faith. These are lessons that so many Muslim New Yorkers have been taught
The
again
camera
and
work,
again.
the focus.
And over these last few days, these are the lessons that have become the closing message of Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams. Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio show host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists, and he lied when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from a debate stage when he claimed that I supported global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat, push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of the city.
He's got to turn it back. He needs to become like ragingly freedophobic. He has to become very bigoted against Italians.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim city worker, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices on behalf of this city only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up in New York marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that rarely feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never quite be cleaned.
Islamophobia is way too normalized in the U.S. Yeah, the crazy thing is it's gotten a lot worse in the last 2 years, and mostly because of Democrats. The Democratic Party has adopted a lot of Islamophobia to defend Israel. Prior to that, I'm not saying there were no Islamophobic Democrats, but certainly like as a front point, it wasn't something you really got from Democrats that often. They've really ramped it up. The Republicans have been consistently racist across the board for a while now. That's not new. But Democrats are the ones who got aggressively anti-immigration as soon as Biden came in, anti-Muslim as soon as October 7th happened. You know, they have been really ramping it up.
Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion. I will always remember the disdain I faced, the way my name could immediately become Muhammad, and how I could return to my city only to be asked in a double-mirrored room at the airport if I had any plan of attacking it. And since I was very young, I have known that I was spared the worst of it. I was never pressured to be an informant like a classmate of mine. I have never had the word terrorist spray painted on my garage as one of my staff had to endure. My mosque has never been set on fire. To be Muslim in New York is to expect indignity. But indignity does not make us distinct. There are many New Yorkers who face it. It is the tolerance of that indignity that does. Since I announced my candidacy for mayor 1 year ago yesterday, I've sought to be the candidate fighting for everyday New Yorkers, not simply the Muslim candidate. I've carried these indignities with me each moment of this race, doing so all the while as the first major Muslim candidate for mayor in New York City history. I thought that if I could build a campaign of universality, I could define myself as the leader I aspire to be, one representing every New Yorker, no matter their skin color or religion. I thought if I worked hard enough, it would allow me to be that leader. And I thought that if I behaved well enough or bit my tongue enough in the face of racist, baseless attacks while returning back to my central message, it would allow me to be more than just my faith. I was wrong. No amount of redirection is ever enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're never going to bite your tongue out of this mess, right? The only way to really confront bigotry is to make anti-bigotry cooler than bigotry. I mean, you need to be as strong of an advocate for opposing bigotry as the bigots are for advocating theirs, you know? You have to always like direct the conversation. This always happens, man, you know? It's like how America became like in so many ways like all the evils of the Third Reich were like stigmas that America fought against in World War II. Not to say America wasn't racist back in the 1940s. Of course we were, but, we still had to challenge that. There were lots of Union soldiers who were pro-slavery before the Civil War, but as the Civil War went on, they were writing letters home about how slavery was an ungodly evil and every slaver should be put to death. And, a lot of it is just like, whether or not you've been exposed to how bad it really is. And a lot of it is also that in the process of being made a soldier against that, you kind of have to stigmatize it. You know what I mean? You're drawing a contrast here. Likewise, you have to militantly oppose bigotry. It's not enough to just be better than it. You have to be an even better advocate against it than they are for it.
In doing this, I have told the wide-eyed young boy in Jackson Heights or the first-time voter in Parkchester that they too should remain in the shadows. I am becoming that same uncle who took me aside. No more. The dream of every Muslim is simply to be treated the same as any other New Yorker. And yet for too long we have been told to ask for less than that and to be satisfied with whatever little we receive. No more. For as long as we have lived, we have known that no matter what anyone says, there are still certain forms of hate acceptable in this city today. Islamophobia is not seen as inexcusable. One can incite violence against our mosques and know that condemnation will never come. Elected officials in this city can sell T-shirts calling for my deportation without fear of any accountability. The consequences are stark. More than 1 million Muslim New Yorkers exist in this city only to be made to feel as if guests in our own home. No more. We stand on the precipice of an election, but that is not what today is about. We know that in less than 2 weeks, we will say goodbye to a disgraced former governor and our current indicted mayor. The bigger question is whether we are willing to say goodbye to something much larger. It is whether we are willing to say goodbye to anti-Muslim sentiment that has grown so endemic in our city that when we hear it, we know not whether the words were said by a Republican or by a Democrat. We know only that it was spoken in the language of the politics of this city. In an era of ever-diminishing bipartisanship, Islamophobia has emerged as one of the few areas of agreement. Mm-hmm. And while I appreciate all who have
across the whole Democratic Party, too. Yeah, 100%.
To my defense over the past 2 days, I think of those Muslims in this city who do not have the luxury of being the Democratic nominee, who do not have the luxury of being deemed worthy of solidarity. While my opponents in this race have brought this hatred to the forefront, this is just a glimpse into what so many Muslims have had to endure every day across the 5 boroughs that we call home. And while it would be easy to say that this is not who we are as a city, we know the truth. This is who we have allowed ourselves to become. A question lies before each of us. Will we continue to accept a narrow definition of what it means to be a New Yorker that makes smaller the number of those guaranteed a life of dignity? Will we remain in the shadows, or will we together step into the light? There are 11 days remaining until Election Day.
Ooh.
I will be a Muslim man in New York City each of those 11 days, and every day that follows after that. I will not change who I am. I will not change how I eat. I will not change the faith that I am proud to belong to. But there is one thing I will change. I will no longer look for myself in the shadows. I will find myself in the light. Thank you.
It's an interesting tenor change towards the end of a campaign, but I think it works in his favor, you know? It's also pretty warranted. Considering all the slop he's had to deal with. Didn't Adams and Cuomo get together recently? Trying to find them together. Hold on. Yeah, I can't find it. They had a press conference recently, and they were like, we are the two Democrats condoning this democratic socialist, but both of them are running as independents. Well. As a Muslim in the West, this feels emotional to watch. I wonder if one of the reasons gay and trans culture seems so ubiquitous in spite of the pushback that it's received is because by virtue of their connection to mainstream culture or to media or something else, I'm not sure. I feel like gay and trans people have always been really, really, really unapologetic about their existence, very loud, you know, very active in a way that's not always like there aren't that many trans people in the United States, but they feel pretty prominent culturally. You know, not just like, oh, here's a Hollywood actress or whatever, but more broadly, I guess, in their influence over media and especially online culture. And I wonder if, like, you know, in the long run, the reason why any effort to kind of suppress them culturally will fail is because the cat's out of the bag, Pandora's box is open, they're already out there. I wonder if that's the template everyone has to follow, you know? You have to be kind of shameless with it. You have to just throw yourself out there, and once you're ubiquitous enough, there's no going back, you know? Imagine trying to, like, reintroduce anti-Irish or Italian discrimination now. I mean, past a point, you're just you're past the expiration date. You can't do it anymore. I agree. It's a terrible looking shirt.
I feel you. Brothers fight. You know, many people don't know because I got my tooth fixed, but my brother threw me to the sidewalk and chipped my tooth when I was a little boy. But when families are attacked, brothers...
Can new bigotries be created? Honestly, in order for a bigotry to take root, it has to have some kind of, like, it's pretty difficult to make them up whole cloth. You either have to attach it to an existing bigotry or pull from something historically. You know, it's pretty difficult to pull it out of nowhere.
Come together. They understand that you have to protect the family. And immigrant families are under attack in this city. Working class people are under attack. African Americans and Hispanic families are under attack. Italian and Irish families are under attack. When you give the finger to a statue that's representative to the Italian community, you're saying you don't give a damn.
He's talking about Mamdani giving a finger to a Christopher Columbus statue 5 years ago.
When you tell Jewish residents that you need globalized intifada, you're saying you don't care. When you go after communities and state that you're going to raise their taxes because of their ethnicity, that's what black and brown communities are going through right now. Taxes are higher in their community because of what was done. We're not going backwards, folks. And so this was a grueling time. And yes, am I angry that I'm not the one taking down Zoran, the socialist and the communist? You're darn right I am. But you know what? The city means more.
Remember when this guy narrowly won the mayoral primary and was immediately invited to the White House, where he met with House Democrat leaders and also with Joe Biden? And there were people like, I believe Ezra Klein, or maybe it was Iglesias, talking about how he might be the future of the party.
To me than anything. And it is time for us as a family to come together. New York can't be Europe, folks. I don't know what is wrong with people. You see what's playing out in other countries because of Islamic extremism. Not Muslims. Let's not mix this up. But those Islamic extremisms that are burning churches in Nigeria, that are destroying communities in Germany, that have taken over the logical thinkings.
There's two logical thinkings. Just two Democrats standing side by side.
That's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the family of New York. That's why I'm here today, to endorse Andrew Cuomo.
Again, just like, genuinely, imagine if this Islamophobia was transcribed onto any other identity. Nothing else would be acceptable. If you talked about Jewish people this way, you would already be in, like, court, basically. It would be over instantly, you know?
To be part of this fight. And I'm going to give it my all these next few days to make sure that black and brown...
Is it possible for America to ever go back to anti-black discrimination, or is it too late now? Well, we fixed racism, as is well known, so I think it's too late to go back now at this point, yeah. No, like, okay, obviously anti-black discrimination still exists, but it is pretty difficult for Republicans to go back to nominal anti-black discrimination, which is the reason why they have to still code it. Like, Islamophobia, they say it openly, very, very openly, you know? And they say it openly about, like, illegal migrants, right? When it comes to black Americans, there's this veiled coding about, like Trump does the low IQ thing. He says low IQ about every black person who doesn't like him. They talk about crime and so on. I genuinely think that, like, a project of open anti-black bigotry would be disqualifying even for the GOP today. I know that sounds insane because you think, like, you know, how far have they gone, right? But you have to remember that most people are really stupid. And there are a lot of Republicans who genuinely do not understand what they're advocating for. They don't understand what they're building. So if the Trump administration just openly started dropping the N-bomb or talking about how blacks and whites can't get along and that this is a white country and so on, I genuinely don't think it would work that well. I think it would lead to a lot of infighting. That's the reason they have to use coded language. They talk about this being a Christian country, right? You know? Again, we understand what they're saying, but it makes a difference to a lot of people.
Communities specifically who have believed...
I'm sorry, it's just a reminder because I'm doing the segment, but I'm sick right now. It's hard for me to talk. So if my points come across a little bit more trite and poorly explained, you'll have to blame that for that.
There's nothing at stake in this election for them. It is. When you empty out 3,000 people in Rikers Island who preyed on these communities, that's at stake. When you state that you don't believe small property owners have the right...
The Fuentes types would love it. The Fuentes types, you mean the non-white neo-Nazis? Did you guys see that fucking Twitter thing where Myron Gaines of the Fresh and Fit podcast was like, yeah, I love Hitler. Hitler wasn't racist against black people, just Jews. And then Zoomer Historian quote tweeted him, was like, no, your epic, gay, wholesome Chungus Hitler wasn't real. Hitler was racist. And then Zoomer Historian went on to make a video saying, yes, Hitler was racist from the pro-Hitler perspective, where he was like, what's with all these non-white Hitler lovers? Isn't that fucking hilarious? So funny. Sorry, man, like 90% of Hitler worshippers are like Indonesian, Indian, Mexican. Who's Zoomer Historian? Nazi YouTuber.
To charge a moderate rent, that's at stake. When you lie and state that you can freeze rent, you can't freeze rent in NYCHA, you can't freeze rent in Mitchell Ahmed, you can't freeze rent in market rate housing, you can't freeze rent, but you are lying and telling people
you can't freeze rent in market rent housing. Really? That's what a startling insight. Really? Wow. Thank you.
You could do so. We're fighting against a snake oil salesman that has sold us a bill of goods. And who is his base of support? Gentrifiers. Gentrifiers have raised the rent in the city and disrespected communities for far...
Mamdani actually wants to raise the rent. I have approved rent increases multiple times by not freezing the rent, and I get along very well with you know, the landlord class. Mamdani wants to raise your rent.
Too long, and he's the king of the gentrifiers. This is going to be a raw buckle fight on the streets, one block at a
Low, that's code for white people. No, no, no. It's just reactionary Democrats go to id poll the moment they're flanked from the left. They do it literally every time. Literally every time with no exceptions. Okay? Maybe the Graham Plattner thing is necessary. Maybe you need to break down the doors and lower the standards for civility and discourse in the Democratic Party down to zero as well. Because it's the only way to, like, lower the conversation beneath the, well, Bernie Sanders, your policy may improve the lives of Americans, but will it what is it going to do for black transgender women of color? You know? I don't know. Can GOG Galaxy stop popping up and telling me to fucking update? It's closed. It's closed, and it's like, update. It's done this twice today. What the fuck?
time, one building at a time, and we're ready to take it on. And that's why I'm here today. So yes, while you criticize Andrew and you called them names, you know what, and he called me names. But you know what? Now it's time to fight for the family, and I'm gonna fight for the family with Andrew Cuomo as the next mayor of the city of New York.
God, their shirts look like such ass.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, I want to thank Mayor Adams for his support, but more than for his support, the mayor put his own ambition aside because he cares more about New York City. And he believes Zoran is an existential threat to New York City. And we all have to do our best to make sure that Zoran does not become the next.
You want to see a really good casual button down real quick? This is my favorite casual button down. They don't even offer traditional men's shirting sizes. This is from Wythe. Look at this beautiful button down Oxford. Look at that. Look at the difference when you're looking at a shirt with the actual texture and character of a high quality cotton fabric, you know? That looks real nice. It makes me wish I was wearing some of that right now. But, you know, also a different body type. Irrelevant. We're not, I'm literally just talking about the shirt, man. You got to separate the, yeah, okay, this is a male model, sure. But you got to separate that. We're just talking about this. By the way, that's a bullshit excuse because older Italian men and ripped, like, older black dudes both can look fucking amazing in shirts. This is like a well-known thing, okay? You know what I mean? Like, it's not as though, like, this disqualifies them. Adams is pretty fucking big, right? You can't really tell because his shit-ass shirt kind of hides the detail, but...
Mayor, and the mayor put his own personal ambition and ego aside to make sure he's doing everything he can to make sure that New York remains New York. And I applaud him for that, and I have great respect for that. And the mayor is exactly right. We've known each other a long time. Mayor served in the Senate. I was governor. We worked together for many years. We are from the same family. We are Democrats. We are Democrats. And we
both ran as independents. It's just a fucking joke. It's a fucking joke. Like, it's actually a joke. It's insane how much of a joke it is.
Been Democrats all our lives. My father was a Democrat. This is a democratic city with a democratic tradition. And Zoran is not a Democrat. Democratic socialist is a different thing. It shouldn't even have the word democratic in front of it. They are socialists.
I agree, because socialism is inherently democratic. I agree. You know, you shouldn't say democratic socialist because it implies that socialism isn't democratic. I agree. Thank you.
Look up the platform of the Democratic Socialists of America. It has nothing to do with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party believes in public safety, believes in law and order. We don't believe the NYPD is a bunch of racists and wicked and corrupt and a threat to public safety. We believe we need more police officers. David Dinkins, Mayor David Dinkins, a great Democrat. What did he do when he took over New York City and there was a crime problem? He hired more police. That's what Democrats do. Democrats do not
Endorsed candidate, by the way, implicitly from the entire Democratic establishment. We're so fucked in this country, man.
propose anti-Semitic policies. Democrats have stood with Israel always.
Oh my fucking god, dude. Oh my god. He can't even help himself. Man, you're supposed to pretend. Remember how the point they were pretending was that Zoran was the one who was obsessed with Israel? Why the fuck would you bring it up out of nowhere? Why?
As an ally. That's what Democrats do. Democrats are not anti-corporate, anti-business. Democrats want to produce jobs, opportunity for people. That's what Democrats do. Zoran called Barack Obama evil and a liar. We think Barack Obama was a great Democratic president. Zoran didn't support Kamala Harris against Trump. He was part of the Leave It Blank party. We supported Kamala Harris against Trump because we are Democrats. And this city is about Democrats. And this city is about caring for all of its people. Democrats are also uniters, not dividers. And there's been too much division from Zoran's campaign. You've seen it with the Jewish community. Mayor's right. You've seen it with the Italian-American community giving the Christopher Columbus statue the finger.
Remember when, like, this was a plot point in The Sopranos and it was funny? Like, and the joke in the show, which was set in the 90s, was that all of the Italians who were upset by it were only pretending to be upset. Like, it was an imagined slight to their ego. In reality, they didn't know anything about Columbus or care about him. Like, it was like, when watching it, you're supposed to understand they're being stupid, belligerent, and xenophobic, and that the students are in the right. And here we are in 2025.
That the Italians would say is un disgraziato. That's what
great.
the Italians would say. We've seen it with the LGBTQ community, where he smiles in pictures with people who oppose the LGBTQ community, have proposed laws that makes it illegal to be a member of the LGBTQ community. That's not what the Democratic Party is all about. And we're going to make sure New Yorkers know what's at stake. This is the future of New York City is at stake.
Just throwing shit in the wall? Yeah, but you, again, like, the underlying tendency here is a deference to IDPOL. We need to eradicate IDPOL. The moment somebody brings up IDPOL, the moment somebody tries to invoke it, like, that should be a million red flags running in your head. He's not talking about policy. He's just running through every... Like, come on. The idea that Cuomo has never met with anti-LGBTQ people when he has met with Trump to try to coordinate a victory in this campaign. Like, come on.
If you don't respect law and order and the police, you're going to see crime go up. You see crime go up, you're going to see people in this community suffer. You're anti-business,
No war but class war. I am not and never have been a class reductionist, but I have always believed that the best way to advocate for queer people and for progressive policies is to just take them as matter of fact and mock and smear people who disagree. Like, I'm not pro-trans rights because I've come to a reasoned position after reviewing the evidence and blah-de-blah. The evidence is great, sure, fine. But this is a done deal in my head. This is, as far as I'm concerned, like, this is a pretty obvious yes or no. I wouldn't have a serious conversation with somebody who believed the earth was flat. I would mostly just ridicule them. I'm proud of that fact. If you're anti-trans, I don't really consider this a point where we need to... meet in the middle, or I should try to reason with you. I just think largely you should be mocked. Then I'll make fun of you, and then I'll say, well, we should talk about like the actual policies. You know, what policies do you want? Because they don't want to talk policies. They want to, you know, gibber on about like, you know, whatever fucking fake statistics they've come up with, or their hatred, or they want to, you know, talk about this or that. It's a waste of time to engage with these people or take them seriously. And I think the same attitude should be taken with fake id poll fuckers like you know? You can't take it seriously. What would Zoran do here? Like actually try to engage with the argument that you're anti-Italian because you don't like Christopher Columbus, a mass slaver who was so detestable that he was condemned even in his day for brutality against natives? Come on. Serial child fucker Christopher Columbus.
Corporation, you want to penalize corporations, penalize wealth, you're going to see more people leave New York. You're going to see less revenue for New York.
Wait, he was a pedo too? You can take, I'm speaking generally here, and there's plenty of specific stuff against Columbus, but as a general rule, if you are reading up on the history of a guy who did mass enslavements and like fucked the slaves, they're fucking kids too. There's no moral qualm in the mind of a person that would enslave and kill people and fuck the slaves that would stop them then from fucking the kids. You're already pretty much in a moral black hole. You're not, you know, you're already going to hell, I guess, in their head.
This will decide the future of New York City. And that's why we're going to do everything we can to make sure New Yorkers know what's at stake. I thank the mayor. I thank him for supporting me. I thank him more for supporting the Democratic Party and for his love of New York City and New Yorkers. Thank you.
Yeah, nuts. In his case, there's not really any speculation to be had. He talked about it pretty openly.
Hold on. Oh, we gonna answer your question. What you find, and you know,
to be fair, they might just not want to fuck kids them out. And yet, for Christopher Columbus specifically, you know, listen. All I'm saying is, if you say Christopher Columbus did a given bad thing, you're probably correct. I'm just saying you're probably fair, and we have laundered the fuck out of this guy's reputation. You know, a lot of people, they think Christopher Columbus is bad because he like killed natives. Buddy, if all he did was kill natives, he would be a saint compared to who he actually was, okay? There are written records of Columbus providing children as young as 10 to many of his lieutenants. You're 100% correct. Yeah, they had a whole like pedophile patronage system, which is my understanding how the White House works these days too. Again, like he was censured by Italian officials for being too evil in the 1600s. Or 14... Well, I'm sorry. Why am I blanking on the 1600s? Spanish, not Italian. Fuck you. 1500s, yeah. I'm sick. Fuck you.
I spoke to Andrew about it, and I spoke to others about it. The difference... How you doing, Jackie? The difference between our campaigns is, you see with this loud person, this is the nasty attitude of many of Zoran's supporters. They come into communities, they think they have the only voice, they're disrespectful, they're nasty, they're rude. This is what we have witnessed. They want to yell and scream. Go hold your own press conference. We're here.
Always the deference to civility. Yeah, Skylar. Every single time. Every single fucking time. Every time. The same thing. Like, these people, they're the most evil people in the fucking world, but this is what they defer to every time because all they care about is staying in power. They're so entitled. They're so fucking indignant.
They're communicating a mission and a voice. You don't see us...
In this respect, they were both correct. They are Democrats, true.
Doing that at their press conference. Go hold your own press conference and stop being a numerical minority and think you're going to overshout people who are in this community. That's the same energy of a gentrifier. Disrespectful, mean, nasty, don't respect the communities they're in. What she needs to do is shut up and let us...
Gentrifier is when you yell at the mayor for lying during a press conference. Yeah, man. Uh-huh. Yes, sir.
Finish our press conference and doing what we're doing.
Andrew, you've shown some concern this week that if Curtis Lewa doesn't drop out, for your chances. You've shown concern for your chances.
Oh my
now
God.
Now that the mayor's endorsing you, what kind of ground do you think you can make up with his base of support?
Look, I think New Yorkers vote, I win. New Yorkers vote, I win. New Yorkers reject this socialism, reject division. If New Yorkers vote, I win. What we want to do is just make sure New Yorkers know how important this election is and what's at stake, and get New Yorkers up and out to vote. That's it.
Governor, on the radio this morning,
One at a time. I'm sorry, say it again.
This morning on the radio, you said, God forbid there's another 9/11. And the co-host said, referring to Mr. Mamdani, he'd be cheering. Your response to that was chuckle and then, well, that's another thing. Mr. Mamdani has said that your comments were Islamophobic and disgusting.
Yeah, everything is first of all, I didn't make that comment.
You're always about to say everything is Islamophobic. After he and Adams have called Mamdani every, like, whiny idpol slur in the book. Now he's like, oh yeah, Islamophobia, like that's a real thing.
There was no co-host. It was a radio show that I was on. I was not
In
the
which you agreed with the statement made by the person who said the comment.
co-host of the radio show.
The
I was,
host made
yeah.
the comment.
The host said whatever the host said.
Is what he said.
All right, that's the host. Go talk to the host about that. I said,
Remember, this guy carries with him the implicit endorsement of the Democratic Party. Like this is the uphill battle we're fighting. Again, I see these globe heads sometimes. I see people who are tentative. You know, they're a little hands off. They're worried about people like Platner, which fair given Platner's recent behavior, or Mamdani or whatever else. But you got to understand that, like, as long as people like this control and are favored by the Democratic Party, we have no hope. Absolutely none. We are so fucked. And you're just as fucked as me. It's not even about achieving socialist values. It's about achieving liberal. Like, I'm lowering the bar. I'm not making that, you know, like, oh, it's socialism or bust. Buddy, the preservation of democracy in this country for the next election would be at this point a miracle of functional democracy. And we cannot do that. If people like this are the ones leading the charge, which is what the Democrats want.
about 9/11, that's another problem referring to what I have said repeatedly, which is I have a problem with the fact that Zoran pals around with Hassan Piker.
Who gave him this point? Who gave him this talking point?
Who said America deserved 9/11. I did a press conference with Wendy and Sal to Churchill.
Was it like Richie Torres? Genuinely, like, who talked to Cuomo and said, you know who you should keep bringing up? An LA-based live streamer. For a comment made years ago.
Sal is dying from 9/11 illness. 10,000 New Yorkers have 9/11 illness. 3,000 died on 9/11. You want to say America deserved 9/11? You insult all the families.
This is also idpol and civility politics, by the way.
Of all the people, you insult all the families of all the victims of 9/11, of all the victims of 9/11 illness. It is an insult to all New Yorkers. I did a press conference weeks ago and asked him to denounce that statement, and he refused.
Actually, he directly denounced it, which was kind of funny.
He refused. That is an insult to New Yorkers. And yes, I have a problem with that.
One at a time. Wait, hold on. We're going to do this one at a time or we're bouncing? Y'all not going to be yelling all over the place at me. We're going to do it one at a time, and I'm only doing a few more, and I'm going. I said what I had to say.
Last question, guys.
You have seen some lost ground among the Hispanic community. Do you think this alliance will help? The mayor is very popular among the Hispanic community, so are you. But Mr. Mamdani has gained some ground within the Hispanic community. How do you think this alliance will help?
I think, look, New Yorkers just need to hear the truth and the facts, you know. They've been mesmerized by TikTok videos and tweets and productions. Let them know the facts. And when they know the facts, we're going to get the Latino vote, we're going to get the black vote, we're going to get the white vote, we're going to get every New Yorker who's a real New Yorker.
Mr. Cuomo, did you offer Mayor Adams anything in return for
Don't even answer
love.
that, Carrie. That's a carry.
Love.
Ignore him. Ignore him.
You used to say that Andrew Cuomo ruined the careers of black politicians. Do you still?
He might not even get the fucking Jewish vote. They look so awkward and defeated. Yeah, well, it's who the Democrats have hitched their ride to. Mamdani campaign response.
Andrew, and you called them names. You criticized Andrew and you called them names. But you know what? Andrew Cuomo is a snake and a liar. Andrew is a double-digit loser. I said, Andrew, are you that level of arrogance? People who run on independent lines are normally just crackpots. This is not, let me stand behind a cocoon somewhere. I always said he didn't have the legs to run in New York. Ask him, when was the last time he was on the subway? Andrew Cuomo was lazy. New Yorkers have 5 fingers. They love the middle one the most. I had to fix his mess. What would he do? He'll manage it away? He'll do a PowerPoint? You know, come on. And you expect for me to step aside when you just lost to Zohan $25 million. He didn't want to be mayor. He didn't campaign. Newsflash. He lost by 13 points. And that's the highest level of arrogance.
Is he still a snake and a liar?
All I know is all my haters become my waiters when I sit down at the table of success.
Never kill yourself. Don't speak too early. We haven't seen the election results yet. Holy shit! I feel like if I talk, every time I open my mouth to talk, there's like a 4% chance that a 8-pound phlegm bubble just emerges and I float away on it. Thank you, my love. Just ult and get it over with. Oh, man. Can we talk about something serious for a second? Please.
You know when, somebody's worried about something, but you don't have an answer to make them feel better, so you just say, don't worry, I got you. Well, that's what President Trump
Me every day reading donos.
Sounded like last night, talking about food stamp funding. Watch.
Are you going to direct the Department of Agriculture to fund food stamps next month?
Yeah, everybody's going to be in good shape. Yep.
That's the whole answer. Yeah, everybody's going to be in good shape. Yep. Now, that's relevant because the short response contradicts what his administration.
40 million or so Americans rely on SNAP benefits, also known as food stamps. And beginning next month, a huge number of states, like a majority of the SNAP recipients, are going to no longer be able to use them.
Said this week in a memo obtained by CNN, the Department of Agriculture says it has a $6 billion contingency fund, but it will not be used to cover food stamps and covers states' expenses Those expenses from the states will not be reimbursed. So if the shutdown continues, roughly 42 million Americans will not get food assistance starting a week from today, November.
Yeah, states don't have the ability to print money the way the federal government does. States have a budget the same way that you and I have a budget. There's money that you have and money that you don't have. And that's it. You have a bank account, you have money saved up, or you don't. That's it. The federal government, of course, when it spends money, it creates money. The reason the government shutdown's happening here is because the government is not authorized to produce more money. Yeah. Can't states issue bonds? But that's not them creating money. That's them selling debt, essentially.
First. Now, yesterday was payday for hundreds of thousands of federal workers. At least it was supposed to have been payday because they have now missed their first full paychecks. More will miss their first full paychecks in the next few days. A lot of people are already turning to food banks.
Jesus.
I'm going to really be depending on the food banks, stuff that I can make a meal out of. Or
this is said to be the single biggest jump in food insecurity since 1929 Black Monday. Fun. Yeah, between SNAP benefits and all of the federal workers not getting their money, except for ICE, because they're getting the super checks. ICE is getting advanced checks. Yeah.
I'm just going to be eating soup for the month.
It means it's a whole lot more that's got to come out of my Social Security check to buy food. And just a lot of other things like things I need in toiletries that I won't be able to get because of the fact that food will be a priority.
With my rent due next week, I could take anything I can get. At this point, I haven't gotten a paycheck this month. So the free groceries is very important, very helpful.
It's overwhelming. There are at least 200 to 300 people in this line that we're servicing today, federal employees. It's mind-boggling.
Chloe Campbell is founder and CEO of the Baby Pantry, one of the many nonprofits helping families in need right now. Thank you for coming in. Before we look ahead, let's talk about what's happening right now.
Okay.
We're now in the 4th week of the shutdown, and we're here in the Atlanta area. Hundreds of thousands of federal employees not too far from here.
Again, keep in mind, these food bank lines are just from federal workers not getting their paychecks. This is not even accounting for the SNAP defunding yet.
DC located here. What are you seeing in the first 3 weeks of the shutdown?
So a lot of families are reaching out because they are in need of assistance. Baby food, because we assist families with younger children and infants. And so families are reaching out for baby food. They're reaching out for baby formula. They're also reaching out for other essentials, diapers, wipes, and clothing. So a lot of families right now are in need.
Yeah. I had in the last show, I spoke with someone who is involved closely with nonprofits. Mm-hmm. The nonprofits across the country are seeing that their funding is on hold from the federal government because of the shutdown. You've got the people who are not being paid because of the shutdown as well. What do you expect this will look like? Week 1 in November, week 2, week 3, if this goes on?
I think we'll see a significant increase right now with the coming weeks. I think that we'll see have like a really high demand for those workers that are not receiving pay. So we're just trying to.
If the shutdown continues until the 9th, that's usually when benefits come in. Well, even if the shutdown ends, that doesn't immediately turn everything back on, because when benefits come in might not be when they're dispersed.
Ourselves for that.
And we didn't see this in the 2018 and 2019 shutdown because there was a plan if there was a pause of WIC, if there was a pause of SNAP benefits, but ends met because it ended sooner than that. Are you equipped? Are you stocked to help the people who will be surging toward your doors?
No guarantee of back pay either. Yeah, well, the Trump administration right now is arguing they shouldn't have to pay back pay. So, yeah, mass homelessness, I guess.
Yes and no. So due to a recent move, we did have to temporarily close our doors. And so we are looking to see how we are able to pivot and how we are able to get the essentials that the families will need.
Yeah.
So,
how can people help?
so they can reach out to us. Our website, www.thebabypantry.org. They can send us an email at info@thebaby.
In Southeast D.C., this food bank line just for federal workers.
You have to have your government ID.
Stretches around the block. Many furloughed federal employees like Anthony Spite now waiting hours for help.
I have children to feed, I have a family to take care of, I have a mortgage to pay, so it's a lot of uncertainty.
The Bipartisan Policy Center reports 1.4 million civilian federal employees like Spite did not get paid today.
I never thought that I would be in this predicament where I'm in need of assistance.
Under a 2019 law, federal workers will be reimbursed at the end of the government shutdown. But that help could still be a long way away, with Congress not in session.
How does it make you feel that members of Congress are still getting a paycheck right now?
You know, if we're not getting paid, I honestly feel that their checks should be withheld as well.
And as food banks face an influx of federal workers,
it's scary.
The clock is ticking for millions more.
With the shutdown, I believe that we'll get double the amount, maybe even triple the amount that we see now.
I'm sure all these people really appreciate the fact that ICE is getting advance pay.
Federal funding for food programs like SNAP and WIC in danger of running dry by the end of the month.
To last all the way for the next month, even to cover December, it won't. We will be starving.
Our NBC affiliate in Kansas City breaks down what that assistance looks like for the 41 million Americans who rely on the program.
I'm Megan Abundance grocery shopping in South Kansas City. This cart full of staples, some fresh produce, fresh fruit, some meat and bread represents what the average person on SNAP benefits or food stamps can afford for an entire week. The national average benefit for a breakdown per person per week is about $46 to $74. That's what we've spent here, $48.68 for this cart full of groceries.
How you doing, ma'am? You can choose one item.
With no end to the shutdown in sight, many now preparing for what could be a long road ahead.
What can I do about it? But just keep pushing forward. As they say, push until something happens.
The food bank that we went to today had over 200.
So should the Dems keep the shutdown going? The Dems aren't. The Republicans are. The Republicans refuse to negotiate. They literally refuse to negotiate. Also, Mike Johnson keeps sending the House home. Like, the House isn't even in session right now because of Mike Johnson.
Government shutdown day 24 marks another milestone for federal workers, whether they're furloughed or still on the job and missed a paycheck. And that is putting the squeeze on family finances. As Lisa Desjardins reports, many federal workers are now turning to local food banks to help put food on the table.
In Northern Virginia today, a line of cars that stretched nearly a mile, making federal workers stretched thin by the government shutdown.
The funds that I do have are pretty much depleted by this point.
It's the third day the Capital Area Food Bank has specifically served federal employees.
This one's dry goods.
This time at 2 different locations. Unpaid workers and contractors waiting in line said they've had to make cutbacks, like Valley Bennett, a single mother who works for the Department of Homeland Security.
I have a kid in college, a senior in high school. A senior in high school, you know, it's a lot of celebration, a lot of things that you want to do since it's your last year in high school, and we have to slow down all the activities.
More than 1 million federal employees today missed their first full paychecks since the shutdown began. That includes Zeleny Johnson, a mother of 3 who works for the U.S. Navy.
It feels terrible. Yeah. It feels really bad. It's definitely not a good feeling to not get one today, but then to also know that you don't know when the next one is coming.
It's going to affect a lot of military folks, too. There's not enough money to direct to pay all their salaries, you know. The DOD pays a lot of people. You know that news that a private Trump donor has directed $130 million to the Pentagon, you know? Do you have any idea how little money $130 million is in Pentagon terms? Timothy Mellon, apparently. A friend who loves the military and loves the country. Do you have any idea how little? $130 million. What's the gonna pay soldiers salaries for? Nothing. A day? a small contribution towards the billions needed to cover service member paychecks. About $10 a soldier. It's about 1/60th the monthly payroll. Insane. Yeah, it's not even food money. Well,
That after Senate Republicans and Democrats yesterday blocked each other's bills to pay some or all workers in the shutdown. Many
complicit media. PBS, you'd think they'd be accurate. Republicans are literally refusing to negotiate.
federal employees were feeling or anticipating pain in their pocketbooks before today. Lines formed earlier this week at the Capital Area Food Bank's first distribution in Prince George's, Maryland, and its 300 boxes of goods ran out with people still waiting. And today, with cars lining up starting at 5:30 a.m., there was even more demand, and again, not enough supply.
We are likely going to run out of food before you get to the front of the line. So this is our pantry network. Additional places to access food will be back next week. I'm so sorry.
It is a national story, with food banks ramping up around the country. In Phoenix, the Society of St. Vincent de Paul started making extra meals and collecting donations in the first week of the shutdown. And as TSA officers work without pay, airports are stepping up with donation drives, including at Las Vegas International.
Las Vegas sees millions of passengers come through our airport, and those federal entities provide vital services for safety and flight safety and airport terminal safety.
And in Salt Lake City, Utah.
These are our neighbors, whether you know them or not. These federal employees are Utahns, they are Salt Lakers.
The shutdown is compounding already worsening food and hunger issues. Before the shutdown, the Capital Area Food Bank's annual report for the D.C. area found a notable rise in the most severe food shortage, people considered very food insecure.
22%.
It is government job related. As of May, 41% of households that lost a job connected to the government were food insecure. That's compared to 17% for households that did not experience a job loss. As the last box of food went into the cars today, significantly earlier than the food bank had planned, a lingering common thought from federal workers: don't forget them in all of this.
Just think about the American people that are out here working really hard just to survive. Just remember that.
The Capital Area Food Bank in Washington is planning its next distribution event tomorrow, and they only expect demand to grow as this shutdown continues. For more, I'm joined by the organization's CEO, Radha Muthaiah. Radha, let me start right off the bat here with, we know demand has increased. How much has it increased by, and what do you see as far as the need in weeks ahead?
The demand has increased considerably over the course of this year, and what we've seen.
If you look up SNAP on YouTube right now, you mostly just see like local channels talking about
4
this.
days into the government shutdown, Americans are facing real consequences.
Federal employees are set to miss their first full paychecks, and SNAP benefits could end in.
How are you personally feeling? Well, I'm sick, but apart from that, I'm well off. So, you know, don't worry. I'll be fine. I'm sure you all were worrying about this, but the cut to SNAP benefits will not, in fact, impact the streaming schedule.
Week.
Fox's Connor Hansen has more.
The second longest government shutdown in history continues with no end in sight. Millions who rely on SNAP benefits to feed themselves are preparing for them to run out on November 1st.
I can't afford the stuff at the store.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is calling on the White House to fund SNAP if the government doesn't reopen in time.
The Trump administration has the resources now, including through an emergency contingency fund that has about $5 billion in it.
Democrats opposed a measure that would pay federal workers who are still forced to show up. People like air traffic controllers will miss their first full paycheck in a few days. Workforce shortages have already been causing flight delays, and now future employees are bailing from the FAA Academy.
They're asking themselves, why do I want to go into a profession where I could work hard and have the potential of not being paid for my services?
Democrats are still holding out for an extension of Obamacare subsidies. Millions of Americans could see their insurance costs skyrocket. The clock is ticking, with open enrollment starting in a week.
The crisis has grown worse because of Republican inaction over the last several weeks.
While the
Dude, I'm so excited for every plane to get grounded. Let's go. It's such an indictment of America and our lack of a strong, like, labor culture that this has not already led to mass strikes and walkouts by, like, air traffic controllers and other people who are essential. You know? A lot of these federal workers are already in a union. Like, you could literally shut the entire country down if all the air traffic controllers just striked. I mean, they're literally, like, about to not get paid. Strikes are illegal for ATC. Yeah, well, you know what else is illegal? Not paying federal workers fucking back pay. That's the whole, like, that's the, what do you do when the government says it's illegal to strike? I mean, I don't know. I understand why they would make it illegal to do that, but, like, we're pretty obviously looking down the barrel of a gun here. I don't really know how the fuck we get out of this without, at the very least, like, mass strikes to shut the country down. You could it's literally the least violent way to force change. Like, compared to everything else that you would have to do to grind this machine to a halt.
Down standoff continues into next week. Senate Democrats plan to force votes on reversing President Trump's tariffs. In New York, Connor Hansen.
Still very harmful, though? Yeah, even a day of them not doing their job would fucking grind the country, international travel, to a halt. Yeah, but that's the whole point, right?
In Fox News.
A state report finds the Oakland Unified School District discriminated against.
But the machine won't grind to a halt. It would simply be privatized. What? It would grind to a halt. You would only have to stop air traffic flow for a day for there to be severe disruptions to the economy. What, you think they're going to find tens of thousands of private air traffic control workers and just replace all of them immediately?
Against Jewish students when it excluded Israel from a map of the Middle East. The newly released report is from the California Department of Education, and it stems from a complaint that was filed last year alleging the district discriminated against Jewish students when it sent out materials in celebration of Arab American Heritage Month. They did not include Israel on a map of the current Middle East, instead labeling the entire region as Palestine.
Don't know what this has to do with what we're looking at, though.
Inside Portland State University's food pantry,
we are a resource here for students.
Tess Conley braces for November 1st.
We expect to see a huge influx in people utilizing the pantry.
Next month, due to the ongoing federal government shutdown, 1 in 6 Oregonians, around 750,000 people, may lose food stamp benefits through SNAP, the federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It helps people with low incomes pay for groceries, including college students.
I don't know. I'm really hoping
like Ray.
I don't have a clear budget for my food. It's only from SNAP.
Ray gets roughly $290 a month through SNAP, the maximum amount for a full-time student, she says.
Without that money, I have to find a way to take it from something else.
Something that me and my kids depend on a lot.
Julie is a full-time mother and a PSU freshman.
But it's something that I am concerned about. But I'm one of those people that has the advantage and, opportunity to be in this area where there is a lot of support for moms. But I know a lot of people don't have that. So, it's worrisome.
This year, about 11,000 PSU students reported being food insecure, according to campus food pantry data.
And we haven't.
It's crazy that so many people's well-beings are being threatened by a cessation of the most pathetic benefits, oh yeah, here's $5 a month and people need it.
Even seen the cuts from SNAP yet.
I'm worried about the situation.
College junior Marin, among those now turning to the school's food pantry for help.
I think I have a plan to move forward. Of course, there is that worry that things might not go to plan.
I would say to start thinking ahead. Visit the pantry as often as possible and start stocking up on dried goods, things that are going to keep in your pantry. I don't want to instill any fear or have people panic because we're not going anywhere and we're going to be here to support you as best as we can throughout the entire month of November and however long this might last.
The federal government has been shut down for 24 days as of Friday. The shutdown will extend into next week as Democrats and Republicans continue to clash over health care funding.
I feel powerless about it because this is something that I didn't shut down the government. Nobody I know shut down the government and chose to have this.
I think it's horrible, and I really think they need to get it together so that people and families can have what they need to survive out here.
Okay, if this...
How many videos have we watched and not a single one has directly implicated the Republicans, man? That's crazy. Not one. By anyone, nuts. Dude, talking is so hard. You take any meds? Yeah. How you worry about you, and I'll worry about me. How about that? It is true we won't be going long today, though. What meds even is there for a cold? Dayquil? Right. So, we are definitely, maybe, probably going to war with Venezuela.
Breaking news, a dramatic U.S.-led escalation in the Caribbean. What the Navy calls the largest warship ever built, along with fighter jets, heading to the waters off Latin America. The administration claims the goal is to stop international drug traffickers.
Man, can you just stop piloting the boat? You're not even getting paid, man.
Provocative move comes as the Pentagon announced another overnight strike on a suspected drug boat. The 10th strike in 52 days, at least 43 people killed in total. And President Trump telling reporters these attacks may just be the tip of the iceberg.
I think we're just going to kill people that are bringing drugs into our country. Okay, we're going to kill them. You know, they're going to be like dead.
And CNN is reporting tonight that the president is considering plans to target cocaine facilities inside Venezuela. Now, the lack of transparency about these plans, especially the deadly attacks on alleged drug boats, have an increasing number of Republicans doing something they don't do much these days, criticizing the Trump White House.
The administration needs to give insight into Congress. That's part of it. If this was happening with this level of insight under the Biden administration, I'd be apoplectic.
And as tensions spike across the...
Also, I know we tend to forget this, but when engaging in acts of war, you're not supposed to give Congress insight. You are supposed to receive from Congress permission. I know we don't do that anymore, but, you know.
Caribbean, President Trump is now just hours away from leaving for a...
I don't know if you'll see this, Vosh, but it's been confirmed the people struck are all literally fishermen. Well, yeah, of course. The only evidence that's been provided by the MAGA movement is like the White House has shown grainy footage that ended up being from different images or news stories. Like they were like, oh, you really think that this wasn't a narco boat, and then they show a picture from like, yeah, the Syrian civil war, exactly. What we're doing is kind of unprecedented in its boldness, which is we're openly committing war crimes, but they're not hidden. Like, the president posts videos of them on Truth Social. It brags about them. Of course they're not narco boats. You know what they would do if they were? Take some drone footage before blasting them so they could use it as evidence. They would go, yeah, look at this boat before we blew it up. See how it looked? They don't do that because they're just blowing up fishing boats. And all of this, by the way, is being made on the assumption that the way drugs are getting into this country is by little speedboats setting off from the Venezuelan coast and going all the way north to America, landing and smuggling them in.
High-stakes trip to Asia, where he's scheduled to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping. Their first meeting since President Trump was reelected, and it comes as U.S.-China relations are now at their lowest point in years. Kristen Holmes is out front live at the White House. Kristen, the president has been focused very much on these strikes in the Caribbean, but he is about to have one of the most important meetings of his second term in Asia.
Yeah, there is a lot internationally going on for the president as he embarks on this trip. And just to dive into what's happening in the Caribbean, I mean, you mentioned this warship, these fighter jets, all of this really represents...
Isn't this what the Coast Guard is for? Well, the Coast Guard would be for if you wanted to arrest them. If you want to just blow these boats up, then you would use the Navy. Of course, that's illegal. There is no legal mechanism for accusing a person of a crime, drug trafficking, and then just killing them with no trial. That is not a thing the president can do or authorize or order. But, you know.
A potentially massive military escalation. I mean, this is not happening in a vacuum. It's happening at the same time. President Trump has confirmed that the CIA is operating in Venezuela. He has said a number of times and increased the rhetoric around the idea of land strikes in Venezuela. Now, of course, we have reported that all of this is part of a broader strategy to eventually oust Maduro. But White House officials say the president is considering a number of options. One of them you mentioned was this targeting of cocaine facilities. I do have to note, Venezuela is not known as a major source of cocaine. So that's just something to keep in mind as the administration has tried to link Maduro to these drug trades. The other one that they were considering is striking actual drug trafficking routes. But again, President Trump has not made any decisions. And we should say that while these escalations, these tensions are rising in one region, there is a lot of hope that President Trump's trip to Asia is going to help de-escalate tensions in another, particularly that relationship with China. I mean, we have been in what we've all been a
No, probably not.
part of, this kind of back and forth trade war.
Is it a coincidence that Maria Corina Machado won the Nobel Prize, or are they complicit in U.S. imperialism? They're complicit in U.S. imperialism. She's explicitly said, like, America, take over Venezuela. I will give your businesses money. I will be like, I will be a grateful colonial stooge for you. The Nobel the Peace Organization is fully complicit in this. It has nothing to do with what she's done. Like all big institutions, they are compliant to or subservient to capital.
Since President Trump was sworn into office, the relationship between China and the U.S. is at an all-time low. And there are a lot of people who are deeply concerned that we are on the wrong track and that we're going to lose other allies in the region who want to trade with China. So this is an opportunity for President Trump to work with those allies as well as to sit down face-to-face with President Xi. But Dana, I'll tell you, they are really trying to manage expectations on that sit-down. Maybe they learned from the sit-down with Vladimir Putin.
Oh, yeah. Maria? Again, this is the Nobel Peace Prize winner who has done nothing for the nation of Venezuela except say, don't you worry, guys, one day America will invade and I'll lead once they do. Did a Rumble stream with fucking Don Jr. Nobel Peace Prize. Triggered with Donald Trump Jr.
Forget about Saudi Arabia. Forget about the Saudis. I mean, we have more oil. I mean, infinite potential. And we're going to open markets. We're going to kick off the government from the oil sector. We are going to privatize all our industry. Venezuela has huge resources: oil, gas, minerals, land, technology. And as you said before, we have a strategic location, hours from the United States. So
she did prove the election was rigged. Doug, Maduro was right to bar her from the election. She's literally a national traitor. Like, this is insane. This would be like letting the Soviets like running a Politburo elections, and John CIA is like getting a bunch of suspicious money and support. Like, what? This is crazy. It was completely correct.
We're going to do this right. We know what we have to do. And American companies are in, super strategic position to invest. This country, Venezuela, is going to be the brightest opportunity for investment of American companies.
Jesus fucking Christ. You don't have to be this straightforward about it, man. You have to like pretend you care about Venezuela too.
Of good people that are going to make a lot of money.
Yep.
In Alaska, that they shouldn't get ahead of their skis.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's a lot to learn there. Kristen, thanks so much for your reporting. Appreciate it. Fareed, it's so good to see you. What do you think, let's start in the Caribbean, where I just left off. What do you think of this massive military buildup? Is it really about drug trafficking or about trying to force regime change in Venezuela, or both?
Dana, you're focusing on the right issue. It is a massive buildup and a massive escalation. Look, we probably now have more troops.
It's 100% legal to depose Maduro, by the way. I don't know what I don't like Maduro. She's just a traitor and a foreign asset. Like, that's a fact. Is that really the best Venezuela has to offer? Is that the best the Nobel Peace Prize Committee can really drudge up there? A lady crowing to the son of the president of the United States that she's going to open and privatize Venezuelan oil so American investors can make lots of money. She doesn't even talk about the Venezuelan people, man. Also, it is debatable whether, like, it would be worse or better under her. Like, she wants to be a colonial asset. Do you know what has happened historically to countries that have been treated that way?
In that area, in that region, the Caribbean and Latin America, naval troops than at any point since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Wow.
You're talking about 10,000 American troops, 8, 9 major carriers. And it is unclear what the purpose is, because the ostensible purpose, as you say, is all about drugs.
It's not debatable, man. You don't know how shit it is back home. No, it is debatable. I'm sorry, if America invaded and set her up as a puppet leader, do you think that Venezuela would be democratic? Do you think that's what happens when America invades banana republic countries in Latin America and sets up their own leaders to allow them to privatize business? Do you think that what then happens is a democracy? Or do you think that she would just keep all of Maduro's strongmen to help them keep reign over the country and would continue to crack down on dissent just while allowing for more American investment, so even less money stays in the country? This has literally happened before. Like, it's usually pretty bad.
But as one of your previous guests was saying, Venezuela is not the font of all the drug trafficking coming into the United States. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible regime, make no mistake, and Maduro is a terrible guy. But if this is an effort at regime change, it would be very important to have thought through the entire sequence of events that are going to take place, how this is going to work out. Donald Trump, in many ways, came to power breaking with Republican Orthodox.
I would rope if I were South American listening to Vosh talk as though he knew anything about my country. Well, based on the way you phrased that, you're not South American, so I'm wondering on what basis of knowledge and involvement you're acting so aggrieved over, Do you, what have I said that's disagreeable? Like, that Pinochet is also really bad in addition to Maduro? Are we doing like the Red Scare anti-communism in Latin America thing? Like, Maduro is really, really bad, but usually what happens, like, the worst parts of Maduro's leadership aren't ideological. They're a consequence of autocracy and corruption and people who are loyal largely to themselves. If you invade and do regime change with no broader plan for reinvestment or development in the country, we've literally seen this happen like many times before in Latin America, in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, where the new dictator that we put in charge suppresses elections just as much, but then takes advantage of the prior power structure, avoids shaking things up too much by just reincorporating those autocrats, those strongmen, in order to maintain like the carceral state, you know? Like, why shake that up? It's just like, that's just a fact. That's not like, that's not defending Maduro. It's just a fact. And then fuck, you do realize what happens after that then. Then any people opposing the new regime have to contend both with it and America. So good luck with that. You know, you're having a hard enough time deposing Maduro, who's incompetent and unpopular, but look forward to your next leader who's incompetent, unpopular, but also a million fucking American companies have a vested financial interest in their continued reign, and America will use their military to continue to defend it. Banana Republic shit.
By pointing out that the Iraq war had been a fiasco, by pointing out that the Libyan intervention had been a fiasco. He had been initially in very Donald Trump-like way, he had been in favor of the intervention, sort of, and then when it turned sour, he said the Libyan intervention was a mistake and Gaddafi should have stayed in power. All of which is to just say, if there is a move toward regime change, if this is some kind of a quiet or escalating war to get Maduro out of power, you'd want to have thought through the day after, the week after, the month after, because Venezuela could easily collapse into chaos. And then, you know, if you think we have seen a lot of Venezuelan migrants, we ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting and important that you say that, because I was thinking about that same dynamic, that this is a man who has been saying, I want to end wars, I want things to calm down. And
I remember that.
It's not necessarily definitive that he's trying to start a war. It could be a show of force. It could be a lot of different things, and moving such a huge military presence into the Caribbean. But is there evidence that those steps that you're describing the day after, or what would happen if Maduro is actually overthrown, or if he steps down, what would happen?
Well, we have the opposition leader, Machado, who just won the Nobel Prize and who's been very supportive of Trump, and you know, in fact, said she dedicated the prize to him, which was all a very clever political way of keeping him engaged and supportive. You know, but just remember, there's always in these regimes, I mean, this is what we learned in Iraq, in Afghanistan, there's always still the remnants of the old regime, the army, the secret police, who are going to mount an assault on whatever new government comes into power. There will be a kind of civil war there. Have we thought all that through?
Well, wait, hold on. Often that's not what happens. Often what happens is that the old guard just sides with the new dictator because it's just business as usual to them. Like, if you're a bunch of government-affiliated gang leaders, or like secret police or whatever who worked under Maduro, and oh, here's a new dictator, why not just serve the new dictator? Again, these aren't ideological differences. Now he's kind of correct here. The old guard in Iraq were the guys who started ISIS. That's complicated. That's complicated. That's complicated. That's very messy. And part of that also is because America didn't just do a regime change in Iraq. We stuck around and engaged in this project of mass killing and arrest of everyone associated with Saddam, you know? But if you're literally just cutting the head off Maduro and replacing him with some stooge, I mean, and that didn't work out either. I acknowledge that's complicated. But look what happened with Afghanistan and Iraq anyway, you know? We put in like stooge governments that are more preoccupied fucking kids than they are actually nation building, and then eventually it all falls apart. Afghanistan fell apart the nanosecond our boys pulled out, the Taliban took back over, and then Iraq, the Iraqi government is pathetic, completely inept, and the country is like a border fucking proxy regime for Iran.
I wonder, by the way, Dana, if this is part of the reason Admiral Halsey, the ranking admiral, resigned in a slightly mysterious way, that he felt like perhaps there was some of this escalation taking place without without thinking it through. I'm not sure. Of course, I'm speculating, but it was a very strange and abrupt resignation.
Let's turn to China and more broadly the Asia trip that the president is about to take. It's a very high stake.
What do we do right in Germany that we failed to do in all those other nations? I really think, genuinely, I think it's that our civilization was comparable to theirs. We were able to integrate ourselves into the post-war German nation, and we had an understanding of the way their legal, business, political structures work together, and we were able to spend years kind of like, here's an example. Nothing we did worked in Afghanistan because we tried to do everything from Kabul, but the real power centers in Afghanistan were like a distributed, decentralized system of tribal leadership, which we have no ability to replace or influence, right? What are we going to do? Put in new tribal leaders? Fuck that. And Iraq, likewise, to an extent, it's complicated. There are big differences between us and the Iraqi people. Cultural ones, of course, not innate ones, but there's still pretty big gulfs. Whereas Germany was very, very similar to American, British, French, so on. We had a better understanding of how to like assimilate into, work with, alter. We knew the system better, so we could copy and paste and cut and snip and so on. And honestly, the same with Japan. By the end of World War II, Japan was pretty well industrialized. I won't say westernized because I think that's a very complicated term. I would say that in many respects, the Japanese government and society was westernized, and in many respects, it wasn't. But another big part of it, I think, also is that like defeat in Japan and Germany was total, absolute, overwhelming, and crushing. Whereas in Iraq, and in Afghanistan, I mean, we didn't even beat the Taliban. The Taliban just fled into the mountains where we couldn't follow them, you know? It's complicated. It's complicated. Keep in mind, we did invest a lot of money and time into Japan and Germany. But I think it's also a cultural element. I do not think we would be able to do any kind of, like, effective regime change in Venezuela. You know? Because a lot of the power in Venezuela comes from like a disorganized kleptocracy, nepotism, and gang leaders, right? Like cartel networks. We have no ability to influence those. It's not like just replacing bureaucratic leaders or whatever, you know, like we can't do anything about the drug lords. We can kill them, but then the next guy takes over. You know, it doesn't.
Meeting that he is going to have with President Xi. And you say the bullying approach that President Trump has used to get his way won't necessarily work with China for a very specific reason. What is it?
Well, you know, Trump actually is very smart about understanding when he has leverage and when he doesn't. So with the...
Okay, yeah.
Back on North Korea, they say that in order to have talks with the U.S., they have to be recognized as a nuclear power. Is that something you're open to?
Well, I think they are sort of a nuclear power. I mean, I know how many weapons they have. I know everything about them. And I've had a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. When you say they have to be recognized as a nuclear power, well, they got a lot of nuclear weapons, I'll say that. Okay, go ahead.
What kind of land targets in Venezuela do you want to strike? And how do you decide which ones to strike?
Well, we're going to see with Venezuela. I can tell you one thing. We stopped all drugs virtually from coming in by sea. And we'll stop all drugs from coming in by land very shortly. You'll see that starting. They're not going to want to do that. They're not going to want to do that. But you're going to see you're going to see drugs stopping coming into our country, just like we stopped prisoners and drug dealers, drug addicts, we have stopped virtually everybody from coming in other than people that want to come in legally. You know, we have a lot of people coming in legally, passing tests, going through a process.
A lot of Latin American politics and militaries is interpersonal quid pro quo. Yeah, can I say another, like, I think if I were to, like, really boil it down, one of the big things that made it possible for us to do the nation building in Japan and Germany that's been difficult elsewhere is that some countries believe in the supremacy of bureaucracy and some countries don't. There are countries where family ties, nepotism, kleptocracy, tribal leaderships, gang leadership, whatever else, have a lot of power. And there are countries where, at the end of the day, everyone fits in a flowchart. And I think that Germany and Japan, with the exception of the emperor, who was, of course, factored in, right, with the, you know, exonerated surrender, so on. But Japan is like that too? No, Japan is highly, highly bureaucratic. Whatever their feelings of family, right? Like Japan, especially post-World War II, right? Like highly militarized, fascist government, very regimented. You know, fascism is very bureaucratic. Well, they hate the bureaucracy, but it always ends up being highly bureaucratic anyway, because everyone becomes subsumed by the state. It's a whole mess. It's a whole thing. You know? Yeah, Japan isn't tribal at all. I don't know. I think it might come down to that to an extent, and I think that it's you can assign this to a country being more or less primitive. You know, I do think that tribal relations are more primitive socially than highly bureaucratic ones. But I guess if that makes you more resistant to nation building, regime change, that kind of thing, I guess that works out in your favor. You know, from a colonial perspective, I'm not really sure. I think you're relying a bit on stereotypes here. Yeah, I'm speaking generally, but I still think it's true. You think this might be one of the reasons why Lebanon turned out the way that it did, right? The Lebanese government is bureaucratic and regimented, and as such has been kind of like, you know, subsumed into the colonial power structure to an extent. And the official Lebanese government is not like, you know, militant or whatever. But then you have Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is much less bureaucratic, much more based on those like tribal interpersonal quid pro quos, and as a consequence, they remain like an insurgency. You know. I don't know. I mean, it's a general
process, but we don't have people coming in from prisons and from mental institutions and the drug dealers. We don't have them coming in. We have almost nobody. We really have nobody. If you know it, for 5 months in a row, they had 0 people come in, and we used to have 1 million and 2 million and 3 million.
It's more that bureaucracy cannot establish supremacy without a monopoly on violence. And it's easier to establish a monopoly on violence when everything in the state has already been kind of ground into the bureaucracy, and you can get the bureaucracy to surrender, as opposed to, again, power being distributed across a bunch of familial relationships and so on. Yeah, well, you know.
Atención.
What?
Domingo. Pueblo de los Estados Unidos lo sabe. Se están inventando una nueva guerra eterna.
Agreed. That's a nice work shirt.
Prometieron que más nunca se metían en una guerra. Y se están inventando una guerra que nosotros vamos a evitar. ¿Con qué? Con la movilización de los pueblos de América del
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says the U.S. has carried out its 10th deadly strike on an alleged drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean. He says all 6 people on board were killed. Just yesterday, President Donald Trump said he'll keep...
Did you guys see that after one of these strikes, there were some survivors, and they just repatriated the survivors rather than arresting them? Was that real, or did I hallucinate that? They're like, these drug traffickers are so evil and dangerous, they need to be killed immediately. And then some survive, and the Navy is like, and just brings them back because none of them are criminals. They're just random fucking people. Yes, to Colombia and Ecuador, known Venezuelan countries.
ordering the strikes without asking permission from Congress. Mr. Trump also denied that the US sent a B-1 bomber like this one to fly near the coast of Venezuela on Thursday. Flight trackers clocked it about 80 kilometers from the mainland. It's not clear if the aircraft entered Venezuelan airspace. But the show of force and soaring tensions have Venezuela on edge. Its government have been holding military drills as President Nicolas Maduro issued this message in English.
Not war, not war, not war. Just peace, just peace, just peace, forever, forever, forever. Peace forever.
Very good.
No crazy war.
Very good.
CNN contributor Stefano Pozzebon is live for us in Caracas. That was a pretty clear message there from Maduro. What else are you...
Actually kind of funny how bad his English is, you know? No crazy war or whatever. I don't... What was that? That was almost French. That was like that one lady with the TikToks, you know? What is that glowing honey? What is it doing? They're going to use it for war. That one, you know, you see which is the molten glass on the glass. You know what I'm talking about. I am scared. Yeah, no, she's iconic, really. Yeah, repatriating the survivors, man. So stupid. I don't know. Yeah, pretty fucked what we're doing here. Who knows where it's going to go. Swallow your imperialist crab lamau. I'm being imperial? I've been fucking anti-imperialist this entire bit. What the hell? How much woker do I need to be? I'm like, glory to the Maduro regime. No America can boots in Venezuelan soil. What do you what the fuck do you want from me? I need to be more campus somehow. I don't know how. You see Kirk queening out over Nicki Minaj with Candace Owens, Lamau. Yeah, he was gay. No wonder his wife acted that way after he got. All right. I feel like I'm basically at my limit for speaking. Without it hurting my throat. Sorry, I do want to stream more. My soul wants me to talk like 4 times as much as I actually have been. I'm gonna read donos, okay? I'll feel better soon. You know? I just, it's just a cold. I have no flu symptoms. No, you know, fever, brain fog, anything like that. It's just, you know. Excuse me. Thanks, Sigabiz. Gargling salt water actually really helps. Yeah, I keep hearing that. Monsoon Miku, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Pumper Nickel, thank you for the tier 4 sub. Very kind of you. And likewise, Archbald1, thank you. Tier 4 sub, that's so kind of you. Thank you very, very much. SamFan155, thank you for the incredibly kind $25. I really appreciate those. Friendly reminder, trans rights are human rights. Anyone who disagrees are political bums. That's true. But even like, not to like compete with you on wokeness or anything like that, but I feel like slogans like this, you know, trans rights are human rights and so on, I feel like they presuppose the radical nature of a talking point that should just be obvious. So I feel like when you're advocating, like, you know what I mean? When you're advocating for these things, I feel, at least in my mind, I'm always thinking like, what, you're not on board? What the fuck is wrong with you? You know, whereas the trans rights or human rights thing seems, it feels like the rhetoric implies I'm fronting some kind of bold position. You know what I mean? It just depends on who you're talking to. Jerry Mass, thank you for the $5. Saran's speech reminded me of Panty Bliss's Noble Call, moving speech about hiding as a queer person while being told you're intolerant for calling out homophobia. I don't believe I've heard that one, but I think I've heard of it. Panty Bliss, that's a drag queen name. Would you say that for Black Lives Matter? Yes. Yeah, I think I would. Yeah. We say Black Lives Matter to refer to the movement, but doesn't it feel a little bit corny and a little bit like weak to say Black Lives Matter as a prescriptive statement? Like really, that's the bold one, you know? You're out there and you're arguing for the rights of people of color, and you're the way you're fronting that is Black Lives Matter. Like, oh, like, right? Shouldn't everyone agree with that? That's why I always preferred the phrase Black Lives Matter more than white lives. Now that's a bold statement, you know? Fluffernutter, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate that. Weatherfish, thank you for the $30. Vosh, as a climate scientist, I'm begging you to take a look into Zach Polanski and see what all the fuss is about. I don't know what you're referring to. Look into Zach Polanski? I don't know what you mean. What do you mean? You know, climate science? I'm asking what... I need more information. Leader of the UK Green Party? Well, what information do you want me to familiarize myself with? Like, I'm already anti-climate change, I guess. You know, I don't want the planet to melt. What would I learn? He's accelerating in UK polls. Nice. Nice. Dr. Trilobite, thank you for the $5. Grew up in Northern Virginia. Have been wanting to move back there. Fucking sucks to watch it struggle, man. Yeah, Northern Virginia is kind of a rough place to be in general right now. I mean, you're also like a stone's throw from D.C. with its ongoing military occupation. Kowalski from Nebraska, thank you for the very kind Tier 4 sub. My 32nd birthday was on Tuesday. You're barely older than me. I put out a farm video to celebrate. Not saying watch, just a shameless plug. Well, that's a scary fucking thumbnail. Happy birthday. Stop prioritizing white lives over all others. Okay, can I be real with you guys? What is the point of the phrase Black Lives Matter? Anyone who is knowingly, openly racist is just going to disagree with it at the face, basically, or they're going to argue with you. But the statement is meant to target people who express implicit racism, not explicit racism. But people who are implicitly racist don't know they're racist. Like, who's being moved by that? I know we're talking about a movement here, but I guess, like, as a line, who's being moved by that? Because people who are implicitly racist are implicitly racist, you know? And if they're explicitly racist, they're going to... It is a rallying cry, but that's what I'm saying. It's fine as a rallying cry, but it's not a good way to make the point, vis-a-vis my earlier point with trans rights or human rights, you know what I mean? Because anybody who's openly transphobic would disagree with you for a number of reasons, but people who are implicitly transphobic wouldn't disagree with the concept of trans rights being human rights. They would just disagree with the way you would express that.
How's it going, folks? Welcome to my office.
Jesus, dude, looking good.
It is a 8335R John Deere tractor. We will do a giant pile of fertilizer, we'll call it, from the feedlot. There isn't a plan, so herds.
Hell yeah, brother. Or they would disagree with the concept of human rights in general. It's just kind of a non-statement. Imagine a Nazi saying white rights are human rights. Like, obviously, yeah. But you take issue with the implication. The implication being that when they say white rights, what they mean is white nationalism. So then you would respond how? You would say, well, because you're stupid, you would probably say something like, white rights are not human rights, because that's like the bait that they want you to fall into. you could follow up with a question and ask, what do you mean by white rights? And get like, you get run down a dialogue tree of insipid non-statements, you know, like they're saying like, the right to self-determination. Okay, what do you mean by right to self-determination? The right to choose where you live. You already have that right. You can choose where you live. The right to choose the community you live in. You already have the right to live in whatever community. You can look up houses, and we don't have redlining in this country, at least not officially anymore. You can choose what neighborhood you want to be in. The right to choose the character of the neighborhood that you currently live in. Like, and they'll never admit what they actually mean, which is the right to choose the race of their neighbors, which is not a right of white people or anyone. I guess what I'm saying is that debate is stupid and you all should give me money for having done it for so long. And I'm still mad about it. Leafar with the $5. Something to remember about Japan, China, and Korea is they literally made a bureaucrat a deity, Confucius. Jogaku is practiced in Japan to this day. Hell yeah. All bureaucrats go to heaven. Dream Canoe, thank you for the $5. Drink water, get well soon. Glorp. I'm working on it. Thank you. That isn't Kowalski, is it? It is Kowalski, as a matter of fact. Looking like, if I might say, an Aryan super soldier. I've seen a lot of farmers on, you know, PBS and NBC, and they don't tend to look like they actually work on the farm. Mogging Vouch, not gonna lie. Oh yeah, of course, obviously. You can just leave it to implication. You don't need to say it. How's this fit? Well, unfortunately, I can tell from the folding on the collar that this is not a 100% cotton shirt. I'm bullshitting. It could be. I don't think it is, but it could be. You can't actually tell that easily. It's so over. Oh, dude. Speaking of getting mogged, hold on. I was so mad the other day. You all know Cumtown? Hold on. Stav, Nick, Adam. I was watching some Stavi's World, and I'm getting fit mogged like effortlessly by these two dipshits right here. Can I get a shot where it's just them? It's so good. I think this is what's fucked up about like influencers from New York. They've had so many opportunities to work on this stuff. You know what I mean? Look at this. This textured, boxy cut sweater with the shirt like collar just peeking through, and then over here this heavy knit or I don't know if it's whatever hoodie, and the like off kilt. They both look really good here, you know? There's a Jewish cabal and it's on fashion. They got this shit online. I don't think Nick is Jewish, but I guess being close enough to a Jew makes you one. That's what I've learned from like the Nazi posters on Twitter. Like every CEO is Jewish because like every CEO knows a guy who's Jewish. Also, Nick's one of the funniest people alive. It's not fair. I did think it was pretty cool how as soon as everyone sat down, Stav and Nick just immediately returned to bullying Adam, like through instinct, effortlessly, you know? That was pretty cool. All right, I gotta read the super chats. Bobby Riedel, thank you for the $5. Really appreciate that. You're going to push for Washington State to pass universal health care via ballot initiative in 2028 since the legislature are cowards? I don't know. I'd need to know about the proposal. I'd need to know more. Still alive, thank you for the $5. Yeah, frankly, I'm a bit more disturbed by how we got the info on Plattner over the actual substance of that info. Yeah. Very much like infinite Palantir shit in every direction. Victorious Gardenosaurus, thank you for the two $5 donos. I really appreciate that. And Mark Marinelli, thank you likewise for the kind words. Flash EXE, thank you for the $50 dono. It's not just a matter of time, but exposure. Many comments on other vids about this show. Many don't know what it is. You have to see it, know what it is, and call it out. Many people don't talk about difficult topics and they don't call it out. What is this in reference to? Not just a matter of time, but exposure. Many comments on other vids about this show. Many don't know what it is. What is this in reference to? This is from yesterday. This is the end of stream yesterday. What is this in reference to? Well, shit, I don't want to be ungrateful. Flash EXE, I'm sorry for being a bad stream host. In fairness, I am sick. I agree with whatever you said, unless it was racist or whatever, in which case I disagree with it. Thank you. Wandering Robot Studio, thank you for the $5. Martian Mars, good luck with jury duty. And TI, thank you for the 20 Swedish kroner. Sadie Green and Ghost of Avalon, thank you for the $10 both. I really appreciate that. I like how aware of history and social system dynamics you are, so I was hoping you could give a quick what's next in their plan, re-immigration, citizenship, asylum, etc. Hope you feel better soon. I'm really sorry. I know this is probably not like a satisfying answer, but when it comes to like broadly the topic of immigration, I truly believe that the administration has no plan at all. Like they will lean into racist grievances to like get momentary wins on social media, but like right now, the big backlog for anything deportation related is just they can't process people fast enough. You know, all the federal detention facilities are full. So in terms of like long-term immigration, I don't think they have an exit strategy. I think they're just, you know, like dogs chasing cars. They're just doing whatever feels right in the moment and hoping they can coast it out long enough before the consequences come in, you know. That they don't have to worry about elections in the future. The Legend 27 and Terminal Sanity, thank you for the $10 both. Aircraft mechanic here, fun way for us to get what we want, malicious compliance. Write up a bunch of legitimate discrepancies that would otherwise go unnoticed and you have to correct them before it can fly. That's why my fucking family couldn't get back home fast enough the other night. Yeah, no, I get you, I get you. But there needs to be some labor solidarity, man. Labor solidarity. Nobody fucking cares, you know? Nobody cares. Terminal Sanity, thank you. Yeah, we did half-ass it in Iraq. Daniel Green, thank you for the two $5 donos. I disagree with saying that nation building in Iraq failed because they were tribal and not bureaucratic. Whoa, hold on. I said that mostly about Afghanistan. I think that there were other problems in Iraq. That was mostly an Afghanistan thing. You know, Iraq was much more developed than Afghanistan. I think in Iraq it was that like poor like civilizational communicative. I guess like part of it also is that there's a difference between feeling like a nation that has lost a war and is being reconstructed, rebuilt, versus being a nation that feels like it's being colonized. You know what I mean? Like the citizens in Germany after the Nazis lost were never in a colony, and they were, at least to some extent, there was some degree of like collaboration within their government, within their society towards you know, moving forward and building and so on. And I think that in Iraq there were, I mean, the problem also, I mean, especially in like a post 9/11 world, yeah, is that it's really, really, really difficult to do any kind of top-down government coordination in like Iraq or Afghanistan or other countries like that because of all the religious extremism, you know, because that's just a wild card, right? And ever since the, you know, basically the turn of the 20th century, the Middle East has been a hotbed for religious violence. Well, not since then, like it started there, but, you know, the modern Islamic like tendency towards radical extremism is a response to Western colonialism. You know, we inflamed grievances there that have now taken deep roots. So, you know. Also, the occupation force wasn't racist towards the Germans. Yeah, but we should have been. What do you mean by modern Islamic tendency? There are a lot of Islamic extremists today, and a lot of their advocacy, both like from an insurgent and government point of view, is rooted in stuff like religious martyrdom, holy war, so on and so forth. But that it wasn't always like that. Islam was not like that culturally for hundreds and hundreds of years. It developed largely as a response to Saudi Aramco, our colonization of the Saudi tribes that led eventually to a cooperative relationship between the new like royal family of Saudi Arabia and Western oil companies. And as a consequence of that, a lot of Muslims in the Middle East correctly felt like their political leadership was selling them out to the West. And it's led essentially to like a long radicalization project where religious extremists in the Middle East correctly argue that the people who should be leading them from a civilizational perspective are actually just sellouts to the West. And you take a look at the Gulf states, right? You're taking a look at like UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia, to an extent Kuwait, right? And even Iraq, right? Iran, certainly with the Shah, and Iraq, Saddam Hussein took funding from both America and the Soviets. And look at Assad in Syria. Assad was a Russian puppet. Like basically every government in the Middle East, every official government was a puppet to Western interests for oil or whatever other reasons. So it's led to a lot of distrust and insurgency in the Islamic, the Islamic world. You could say that's a Middle Eastern thing, not an Islamic thing. Yeah, but like we don't need to be woke to the point of being poor communicators here. It's a Middle Eastern Islamic thing. You can say it's an Arab world thing, sure, but it's not like the same with Arab Christians or Arab Jews. It's like Arab Islamic thing. It's like a specific, because it was the Wahhabist religious extremism that kind of like kicked it up, It's also not all Arabs, right? Yeah, because the Iran is also. Sure, but most Muslims are in Indonesia. Okay, yeah, but like you know what I'm talking about, so why be annoying? You know what the fuck I'm specifically talking about? The Middle East and Islam, you don't need to like not all Muslims me. I fucking know not all Muslims. I'm not talking about all Muslims. I'm talking about a particular trend of religious extremism. Jerry Mass, thank you for the $5. Hey, up to our new president, Catherine Connolly, herefore known as Catherine the Based. Yeah. What's this in reference to? I can't think. Kowalski, thank you for the $5. Thanks to the compliments. Real Farmers Watch Vosh. True. You do want SNAP benefits to go through. It's in everyone's best interest. Five by five, thank you for the 2 CHF. And Andrew Alt, thank you for the $5. All right, I'm clearly like, struggling a bit to talk here, so I am going to go. Hopefully, I feel well enough to talk and stream tomorrow. That's my hope. If not, tomorrow might be a break day. But I don't think it should have to be. I did okay today. I didn't die. Take care. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.